November 22nd, 2018. In the small mountain town of Woodland Park, Colorado, Thanksgiving Day seemed like any other holiday. Families gathered around dinner tables, children played, and life moved at its usual pace. But for 29-year-old 𝗟𝗓𝗪𝗓, it would be the last day anyone would see her alive. A devoted mother and flight instructor, Kelsey was building a future for herself and her young daughter. Friends described her as independent, hardworking, and deeply committed to the people she loved. That afternoon, surveillance cameras captured Kelsey shopping with her 1-year-old daughter. Nothing appeared unusual. No signs of danger. No indication that within hours, she would disappear without a trace. Days passed. Then weeks. Text messages stopped. Phone calls went unanswered. Her family knew something was wrong. As concern turned into fear, investigators launched a massive search. The mystery quickly gained national attention. Where was 𝗟𝗓𝗪𝗓? The deeper detectives dug, the darker the case became. Evidence began pointing toward someone Kelsey trusted, her fiancé, Patrick Frazee. What followed was a chilling investigation filled with deception, hidden secrets, and a shocking betrayal. Prosecutors would later reveal that Kelsey had been murdered inside her own home. The case horrified the nation. In 2019, after a highly publicized trial, Patrick Frazee was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without parole. For Kelsey's family, the verdict brought justice, but it could never replace what was lost. Today, 𝗟𝗓𝗪𝗓 is remembered not for the tragedy that ended her life, but for the life she lived. A loving mother, a dedicated pilot, and a woman whose story continues to remind us how quickly ordinary lives can be changed forever. This is the story of 𝗟𝗓𝗪𝗓. January 27, 2020. In the quiet community of Colorado Springs, Colorado, 11-year-old 𝗟𝗓𝗪𝗓 𝗟𝗓𝗪𝗓 was reported missing. According to his stepmother, he had left home earlier that day and never returned. At first, it seemed like a desperate search for a missing child. Family members, volunteers, and law enforcement worked around the clock, hoping to bring 𝗟𝗓𝗪𝗓 home safely. His face appeared on news broadcasts across the country as thousands followed the case and prayed for answers. But as investigators examined the evidence, troubling questions began to emerge. Surveillance footage, phone records, and witness statements began to contradict the story that had been told. The investigation slowly shifted from a missing person case to something far more disturbing. Attention soon focused on 𝗟𝗓𝗪𝗓's stepmother, 𝗦𝗧𝗢 Statch. Authorities alleged that she had attacked 𝗟𝗓𝗪 inside the family home before transporting his body across state lines in an attempt to conceal the crime. The details that emerged shocked the nation and left many struggling to understand how such a tragedy could happen. For weeks, 𝗟𝗓𝗪's family endured uncertainty and heartbreak. Then, in March 2020, investigators located his remains in Florida, more than 1,000 miles from his Colorado home. The discovery brought an end to the search, but marked the beginning of a long fight for justice. In 2023, after a highly publicized trial, 𝗬𝗓𝗪𝗓 Statch was found guilty of murdering 𝗟𝗓𝗪𝗓 and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Today, 𝗟𝗓𝗪𝗓 Statch is remembered not for the crime that took his life, but for the joy, kindness, and love he brought to those around him. His story remains a heartbreaking reminder of the importance of protecting children and seeking justice for victims whose voices can no longer be heard. This is the story of 𝗟𝗓𝗪𝗓 Statch. September 2019. 17-year-old 𝗟𝗓𝗪𝗓 Ryan was known for her fierce loyalty to her family, especially her younger brother, 𝗟𝗓𝗪𝗓𝗡. Friends described her as intelligent, protective, and mature beyond her years. But in the fall of 2019, 𝗟𝗓𝗪𝗓 suddenly vanished. At first, few people realized she was missing. Her mother, Lori Vallow, had recently moved with her children from Arizona to Idaho. To outsiders, it appeared to be just another family relocation. But behind closed doors, a much darker story was unfolding. The last confirmed sighting of 𝗙𝗨𝗦 occurred on September 8, 2019, during a family trip to Yellowstone National Park. Photos from that day showed a seemingly normal outing. No one knew it would be the last time she would be seen alive. As weeks turned into months, concern grew. Relatives, friends, and investigators began asking questions. Where was 𝗙𝗨𝗦? And where was her younger brother, JJ? The search soon uncovered a web of mystery involving 𝗟𝗏𝗨𝗪 and her new husband, 𝗏𝗏𝗪𝗏. Investigators learned that the couple held unusual religious beliefs and spoke about apocalyptic prophecies and spiritual missions. As public attention intensified, authorities launched a nationwide search for the missing children. Then, in June 2020, the investigation reached a devastating turning point. Human remains were discovered on 𝗏𝗏𝗪𝗏's property in Idaho. The remains were later identified as 𝗙𝗨𝗪 Ryan and JJ Vallow. The discovery shocked the nation and transformed the case into one of the most disturbing true crime stories in recent memory. Years later, Lori Vallow and 𝗏𝗏𝗪𝗏 were convicted in connection with the deaths. Today, 𝗙𝗨𝗪 Ryan is remembered not for the tragedy that ended her life, but for the bright, caring young woman she was. Her story remains a reminder of the importance of seeking truth, demanding accountability, and never forgetting the victims at the heart of every case. This is the story of 𝗙𝗨𝗪 Ryan. August 2007, on a warm summer night in Lancashire, England, 20-year-old Sophie Lancaster and her boyfriend, Robert Maltby, were enjoying an evening out with friends. Sophie was known for her creativity, kindness, and unique sense of style. She was part of the goth subculture, a community that embraced individuality, music, and self-expression. To those who knew her, she was a vibrant young woman with a bright future ahead of her. But in the early hours of August 11, everything changed. As Sophie and Robert walked through a park in Bacup, they were approached by a group of teenagers. What followed was a brutal and senseless attack. Witnesses later revealed that the couple had been targeted because of the way they looked. Robert was beaten and left unconscious. Sophie, refusing to leave his side, was then attacked with devastating violence. Emergency responders rushed both victims to the hospital. Robert survived his injuries. Sophie suffered severe brain damage and remained in a coma as people across the country hoped for her recovery. For nearly 2 weeks, her family kept vigil by her bedside. Then, on August 24, 2007, Sophie Lancaster died from her injuries. Her death shocked the United Kingdom and sparked a national conversation about prejudice, intolerance, and violence against people who express themselves differently. The case led to the conviction of several attackers and became a turning point in efforts to recognize hate crimes against alternative communities. In the years that followed, charities, campaigns, concerts, and educational programs were established in Sophie's memory, promoting acceptance and respect for individuality. Today, Sophie Lancaster is remembered not only for the tragedy of her death, but for the powerful legacy she left behind. Her story continues to inspire people to challenge prejudice and celebrate the right of every person to be themselves. This is the story of Sophie Lancaster.